Our first example comes from a game that happened about a week ago before I sat here taping this DVD. And I always seem to get lucky. Like I have some big idea I want to present to an audience, and a week or 2 weeks before, something dramatic happens in the world of chess, and I say, wow, I can just rip it right out the headlines. Well, this one comes straight out of the headlines from a famous tournament that happened in Vaikanze that Hikaru Nakamura from the United States won in brilliant style. Well, this game came from a game between Aronian and the young phenom Nepomniachtchi. He's coming up as all these young players now who are top grandmasters, incredible, and this is definitely one young player to watch. But he had an unfortunate accident in this game that was based on something that top grandmasters often miss. If you take a look at this position, it comes from a Grunfeld defense, and it's a known position. And Nepomniachtchi, sitting at the board, decided that he would play a move that is known, move c5. And this looks somewhat unusual because it's hanging a pawn on b7. And so Aronian took the pawn. And again, this position is a standard position, is known to theory. It's not a famous position, but it's known to theory, and no doubt Aronian knew the position he was going into as well. Now, Nepomniachtchi, sitting at the board, decided to do a novelty. And afterwards, when he was asked about this by one of his former trainers, he said that he just came up with his next move at the board. And the move he played was to capture on d4. Now, before going over that move, let's take a look at what the normal move here is in this position. And it's this one, queen to b6. The idea is that the rook on a8 can be captured, but then if it is, the queen in the corner is never coming out. It can be trapped by the move knight to d7. And try as he might, white will not be able to extricate the queen, and everything is okay for black. At least it's supposed to be okay. I'm not sure what Aronian had planned for this position, but we'll assume that black's fine. Or if he isn't, then Aronian will show us at some later game. At any rate, Nepomniachtchi may have suspected something or decided that he would like to mix things up. So he chose to play the move c captures d4 first. And now, after Aronian captured back, Nepomniachtchi now played queen to b6, feeling as if he had improved on the previous game. The problem, however, was after queen takes a8, suddenly it was impossible for Nepomniachtchi to play the exact same variation, that is, knight b to d7, because after c5, the move he had planned was queen takes b2. And now this queen is still trapped, and he was going to be winning this rook. The problem here, as you can see, though, is that this bishop is guarding this rook all of a sudden. And this he hadn't noticed in his calculations when he first came into the position. Now you might be thinking, well, come on, this guy's a 2700 grandmaster. How can he miss that the bishop is guarding the rook? Well, if you go back a couple of moves, right to the moment when queen takes b7 happens, right here, the bishop is not guarding the rook. There's a pawn in the way. So in his mind, the rook is hanging. So going into the variation, he's thinking, when I take on b2, everything is cool. And I know some of you might still be thinking, but he's a 2700 grandmaster. Don't they see things like that? Well, of course they do. And maybe on his best day or on a better day, he would have seen this idea pretty quickly. But it's this exact kind of blunder that I'm trying to get you to realize that top grandmasters make when they blunder. There's a nature to the mistake. It's not just haphazard, oh, it's just chess blindness. You know, you see a lot of that in magazines. The notation will say, oh, this is a bizarre blunder, or it's chess blindness, or he just had a bad day. There are types of blunders that top players typically make. And it's these types of blunders where something was in the way of something else, and then suddenly it disappeared, and you're looking at the board and thinking, how the heck did I do that? Why didn't I see that? And I'm sure Nepomniachtchi is kicking himself after this position happened, and he's staring at the board, realizing that he can't play knight d7 all of a sudden because this bishop is guarding the rook. We don't even have to continue much of this game. He got desperate after this. He played knight h5, c5 happened, queen takes b2, and then bishop to d2. And the queen is just simply not trapped anymore. It's going to come out here on a7, or if the knight moves, it's going to be able to come out to the square c6. And he was essentially just down a rook, and he went on to lose the game. No need to see any more. But this is a simple example, and thankfully for me, a current example of the type of moves that grandmasters miss, and particularly in this case, the discovery, which is the theme of our DVD. We're going to see more examples like this, so let's move on.